All right, we are nearing the end of 2024, and you know what? It's that time of year, baby, because this is my top 10 horror films of 2024. And you know what? And around September, I said that this is one of the best years of horror that we've had in a very long time, and I stand by that. I thought this year was just incredible when it came to horror. There are so many good movies that came out this year when it came to horror, and to be honest, it was kind of hard to even like come up with my top 10 because movies were coming and going, and it was a little more difficult this year than it has been in the past, and that's kind of just a testament to how great this year was when it came to horror. So buckle in, strap in, and get ready because here is my top 10 horror films of 2024. All right, starting out the list at number 10 is Longlegs. You know, I found this movie to be pretty interesting because I didn't expect this movie to be, as polarizing as it is. And that's because, like, I think a lot of people did not like this movie. There are a lot of people who love this movie, and I'm one of them. But I was kind of surprised at the backlash of how many people did not like this movie. And for me personally, why I liked it, why it's in the top 10, is because I am a vibes guy. I love vibes, and I loved the vibe of this movie. The look, the tone, the atmosphere. The everything about the tone and atmosphere of this movie, I ate up. It is like my catnip. Is it the best story of the year when it comes to horror? No, it is very much Seven. It is very much Silence of the Lambs. But what I think it nails out of the park is just that atmosphere and that tone and just how gritty and just off-putting it all is. I ate that up and I loved it. Then there's Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is barely in the movie, but when he is on screen, I thought he was wonderful. I thought he was captivating. He was a lot weirder than I thought, which I know is kind of, interesting to say about Nicolas Cage because he's typically just a weirdo. But yeah, I thought he was fantastic. I thought the reveal at the end was great. It was a little sloppy, but at the end of the day, I thought that the climax of the film was nail biting. I was grabbing the arms of my chair like, oh my god, what is going to happen? And I love the cut to black to T-Rex. I don't know. I thought this movie was just a blast to watch, and that is why it is my number 10. Number 9, Sleep. Man, this movie rules. This is a great movie. This is a movie that takes an idea of like, okay, what if the person you're living with, what's the person you're in love with, starts to sleepwalk and starts to harm himself, maybe even harm you, and how do you handle that situation? How do you as a couple overcome this scary and obstacle in their life? Like it is, and then what's so great about the movie is that's how it starts. That's like the first hour of the movie of how they're trying to navigate this scary sleepwalking phenomenon. But then the movie pivots into something completely different. I'm not going to spoil it here, but man, I'm telling you, the last 10 minutes of this movie is just gripping. It is just two people in a room talking, and it is like nail biting. It is intense. I was just like, oh my god, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? And I thought the ending was very satisfying. It probably has one of the most satisfying endings of horror this year. Do not sleep on Sleep. It is fantastic. If you have not seen it, please check it out. It is wonderful, and it is my number 9. Number 8, Late Night with the Devil. Yes, the horror, critical darling of the year. This came out, I want to say in like March or April, and everyone jumped on it. For good reason. It is a very fun horror film. It's probably one of the most fun horror films of the year. It basically takes the found footage-esque genre and does something different with it, which I wasn't really expecting. It's basically a talk show that you're watching, a film talk show that you're watching that takes place on Halloween night. And the talk show invites a skeptic, a psychic, and a little girl who claims to be possessed by the devil. And needless to say, shenanigans start to happen. And I thought it was just a wonderful, wonderful film. It reminds, I think I said in my review that this is the best Stephen King story that Stephen King never wrote. If you're a fan of Stephen King, I think this is right up your alley. I thought this was a blast to watch. It does get a little surreal in its climax that I didn't quite love. But overall, I thought this was a very engaging film, a very entertaining film, and that is why it is my number 8. Number 7, Terrifier 3. Art the Clown is back, baby, and this time he is donning the Santa Claus suit. And yeah, this movie was wonderful. It is interesting. I I ranked this pretty high on my horror ranking video. That's because when I went and saw it in theaters, I saw it in a sold out crowd opening weekend, and it was a blast to watch with a crowd of people. It was so engaging. It was so fun. Everyone was laughing and cheering and groaning, and yeah, it was one of the most memorable movie-going experiences I had. And, you know, I reflect on that screening and how fun that was, and I think that, you know, definitely played a part in how I ranked it in my ranking video. But, you know, I rewatched it on Christmas Eve because my girl hadn't seen it yet. And I was like, hey, Christmas Eve, let's watch Terrifier 3. And you know what? I didn't love it as much as I did the first time. But I still think this movie is a blast. I still think this movie is so much fun, especially when you get to the last 20 minutes of the film. The last 20 minutes of the film is worth watching alone. The last 20 minutes of this film is awesome. It is so damn good. And you know, I understand that there are a lot of people who don't like these movies and they say there's no substance to them, it's just blood and gore. And you know, while I understand that point of view and I'm sympathetic to that point of view, for me it is more than just blood and guts. There is more going on in Terrifier than I think people give credit for. You know, I think there's a lot of world building in these movies. I think Art the Clown is a very compelling villain. I think Sienna is an incredible protagonist. There are a lot of ingredients that make these movies great, and it's not just blood and gore. These movies introduce new world-building ideas with each movie, and it keeps you guessing, and this movie leaves you on a cliffhanger, which makes me want to watch the next one. So I think that there are a lot of things happening, and I think there are a lot of things happening in this movie. In this movie, we get more world-building stuff. We get more questions that we want answers to. And at the end of the day, it's just a fun, gory, effects-driven movie, and it's a blast. And that's why it rounds out at my number 7. Number 6, Oddity. Yeah, this is one of the most, if not the scariest movie I've seen this year. I saw this in theater all by myself. I have this theater to myself, and this was by far the scariest experience I've had this year watching a horror film. It really is scary, and when I think what's so clever about the movie, or not even clever, what's so refreshing about the movie is that there are a lot of jump scares in this movie, but they're motivated. The jump scares are worth it. They're not just, you know, someone bumping into somebody or someone, you know, closing the medicine cabinet and then like a cat jumps out. There's none of the BS jump scares in this movie. They are all motivated and they're all scary. There is one jump scare scene that happens inside of a tent, and it was just like, that was one of my favorite jump scares of the movie. But at the end of the day, I think the story is cool. It's a very small movie. It's a movie that mostly takes place in one location, and it kept me engaged. There's some twists and turns that I wasn't expecting. And yeah, overall, Oddity is one of the best horror films of the year, and that's why it is in my number 6. Number 5, Smile 2. Yeah, I said in my review, I wasn't really expecting to like Smile 2. I wasn't like all that hyped and excited for it. I thought Smile was perfectly fine, slightly above average horror film. So I was like, do we need another one? And man, color me surprised because I thought Smile 2 was a blast. Man, this was on every level. I think this movie succeeds over its, you know, predecessor. Like, this movie has a better protagonist. It has better jump scares, has a better story. It's bigger. Everything that Smile did, Smile 2 just does better. And this is one of the better horror sequels that I've ever seen. It is fantastic. It is scary. It goes places I didn't expect. It ends in a very big way, and I'm very curious to see if they're going to make a third one and how they're going to navigate where that ends. Above all, a fantastic performance from Naomi Scott. My God, she is killing it in this movie. One of the best horror performances of the year. Smile 2 was just a fun Hollywood studio horror film that we rarely get. A lot of studio horror films are kind of like, things like Imaginary and Night Swim. Like, that's kind of the slop that we get. But Smile 2 rises above the water and says, you know what? Hollywood horror, studio horror can be fun and fantastic and scary and a blast to watch. And that is Smile 2. And that's why it is in my number 5. Number 4, Heretic. Heretic was so up my alley, man. What a fun movie. I love horror films that talk about, you know, complex ideas, and I just love movies in general about just people in rooms talking. I know that sounds weird, but this movie is mostly people in rooms talking, but it is so engaging. It is so fun. Hugh Grant is chewing up his role. He is fantastic. He's likable. He's creepy. He's unsettling. And, there is a sequence in this movie where he goes on like a 10-minute diatribe about religion. And it is one of the most, fun, entertaining sequences of a horror film I've seen this year. It is a blast, and the back half of the film gets spooky and scary, and the whole movie you're wondering what's actually happening. Is any of this real? One of the things I appreciate is that the movie, on the surface is kind of, poking in holes at religion, but I do think that how this movie ends, it does end in a way that it's like, this isn't a movie about a director just being like, religion bad, beating you over the head with it. I think that this movie is kind of, putting forth the idea that, yeah, religion can be bad, but it can also be good. It can bring good into the world, and having faith isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I like that the movie wasn't so, like, beating you over the head with how bad religion is. Like, there's kind of another side to it, and I appreciated that. But overall, this is a movie I sat down from frame one to the end, and the credits are rolling. I just had a blast. I thought it was gripping, entertaining, just a fun ride. And yeah, Heretic was a real treat from A24. They nearly miss, and luckily they did not miss with this one, and that's why it's my number 4. Number 3, Mads. So yeah, out of any horror film of this year, this one is the most technically, impressive film of the year. Not even just horror, just from all genres of 2024. This is one of the most impressive films I've seen all year, and that's because this is a horror film that takes place in one continuous shot. And my God, is it a blast. You're basically watching one character's descent into madness over the course of a night, and where it goes, and how the camera follows, not one character, not two characters, but 3 characters as they all kind of, try to survive a night. I'll just leave it at that for those of you who haven't seen it. I thought it was amazing. I was like, I cannot believe the camera hasn't cut. I cannot believe that we're going places that I did not expect, and it ends in a very big way. This is a movie that builds and builds and builds to a climax where you're just like, holy crap. Yeah, this movie I thought was just a blast to watch. Oh my gosh, Mads is fantastic. If you're into that kind of thing, if you're into like very creative, pushing the medium forward and doing one long continuous take, if that's kind of your thing, do not miss out on Mads. Even if you're not a horror fan, please check out Mads, because I think there's a lot here to enjoy and a lot here to marvel over of the technical aspect of how they got this made. It is just fantastic and awe-inspiring and scary. It is scary. It is crazy. It goes in some crazy places. And yeah, Mads, it is just so good. And that is why it is my number 3. Number 2, The Substance. Yeah. Okay, yeah, The Substance. What a movie. What a movie. Man, where do we even begin? The story here is captivating. Demi Moore is incredible. Margaret Qualley is incredible. Dennis Quaid, the whole cast is knocking it out of the park. The last 40 minutes is so bonkers and insane that you just have to applaud it. You have to applaud where this movie goes. Even if I didn't quite necessarily love where this movie went, it's hard not to argue that, like, okay, even though this isn't quite working for me, I appreciate, swinging for the fences. And man, do they swing for the fences in the last, 20 minutes or so. This movie gets wild, and it is insane. I could not believe what I was watching on screen. I was just like, oh my God. And it goes hard in the paint, and it is one of the most freaking bonkers bananas climaxes I've seen all year. It is phenomenal. And just overall as a package, when I reflect on The Substance, yes, it has a good story. Yes, it gets bonkers in the last 20 minutes. Yes, there are cool effects that are worth appreciating. But, when I reflect on The Substance, I actually am very drawn to how the movie is filmed. The movie is filmed in such a very unique way. It's very choppy. It's very different, weird, off-putting angles, fisheye lenses. The movie has a vibe to it, and that vibe is unlike anything we've seen all year in terms of how it's filmed. And yes, The Substance is one of the most memorable films of the year, and that is why it's my number 2. All right, now we come to the big one, the number 1, the best horror film of 2024, and that is Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Nosferatu, man, what a juggernaut. What a juggernaut. I love Robert Eggers. He is one of my favorite directors working today. I love The Witch. I love The Lighthouse. I love The Northman. And you know what? I loved Nosferatu. Nosferatu was phenomenal. Oh my gosh. What Robert Eggers does so well is give a good sense of place. Like the moment this movie starts, you are transported into the 1800s in Germany. Like the costumes, the sets, the vibes, the lighting, everything about this movie from a technical point of view is just incredible. It is incredible. It is insane. The performances, Lily Depp Rose, Nicholas Hoult, Willem Dafoe, they are all they're firing on all cylinders. Like, it is fantastic. And man, Nosferatu himself is so much fun. Oh, I wish I could do his voice, but there is so much fun in this movie. It is so creepy, it's so dark, it's unsettling. It is a very much a vibes movie. This isn't this is not the feel good horror film of the year. This is a dreadful nightmare in the best way possible. Yeah, everything about this movie is just almost perfect. I loved this movie. I cannot wait to go rewatch it on the big screen. And I do recommend people see this on the big screen just to admire all the artistry on screen. It is just jaw-dropping. Robert Eggers never misses, and he did not miss with this one. Nosferatu is the best horror film of 2024. And yeah, so there it is. All right, so those are my top 10 horror films of 2024. And just remember, this is just my opinion. I would love to know your thoughts. Did you agree with my list? Did you disagree with my list? What are some of your favorite horror films of the year? I'd love to know your thoughts. But yeah, I thought this was a great year of horror. There are a lot of other horror films that are worth watching and worth mentioning. These are just the top 10 that stuck out to me. But yeah, what a great year for horror. I can't wait to see what's around the corner in 2025. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.